what actually works when children have tantrums. So I want to talk about children having tantrums, but I want you to talk about it in a realistic way. A lot of parenting advice sounds really, really beautiful, but in books, but in real life is kind of useless. So people will say, well, just, if kids have a tantrum, just hug your child, just to validate their feelings, just say some like magic sentence, some perfect sentence. If you say it, you know what, everything is solved. But in real life, when your child is like screaming, like kicking things, right, like grabbing anything, throwing things, or you know what, they can simply just refusing to move. They lay down and then they don't move. For example, you at the supermarket, and then the kids just lay down on the ground and refusing to move. That's the reality, right? And that one magic sentence, that hug, usually does not solve everything. That's from my personal experience. So, what I want to provide is more research-based suggestion and more realistically applicable suggestion. So what personally did I do? So I think the answer is not about, soft surrender, right? You have a tantrum, right? I surrender. I think that's not the solution. And obviously, it's not punishment. It's like, right, I'm so angry, you have a tantrum, I have a tantrum as well, right? I'm so angry, I'm going to punish you, right? That usually is not the answer. So, from my personal experience, I think the answer is authority. It's a calm authority. I know what you're thinking. You might think, well, it's just another, cliched example. But you know what? I think this can be applied, at least for me, in real life. So, here it goes. The first thing is to separate feelings from behavior. I think a child is allowed, or, adults is allowed to have feelings. Is allowed to feel, say, angry. I'm so angry. I feel angry all the time. And sometimes it's allowed to feel sad. Or tired, of course. Having kids is a pretty tiring experience, right? I feel tired all the time. And, of course, sometimes the kids or the adults may feel disappointed. That's allowed. That's emotion. That's allowed to feel. But here's the thing. But the child is not allowed to, say, hit, right? Hit other people, hit you, or they bite, right? And then, they throw things, or they use, screaming. They use the screaming. And the child is not allowed to use all these kind of strategy to control the whole family. That's not allowed. The feelings, of course, everyone can have feelings, and feelings can be accepted. But the behavior, we still need a boundary to control that behavior. Okay? Feeling, good, accept it. You got a feeling, I got a feeling, everyone got feelings. The feelings can be accepted. But what accompanies the feeling, the behavior, that's the thing that needs to be regulated. That the thing needs to draw a boundary. That's the first thing. The second thing is that while you are, you're seeing your kid having a tantrum, that exact moment is not the moment to use tons of lectures and, talk to kids and, face-to-face talk of 30 minutes. Use very few words. That's the second one. Use very few words. So during tantrum, a child is, emotionally overloaded. Right? It's like, right? So this is not the time for a lecture. And from my personal experience, I think the most applicable method is to say something very short and very firm. Right? So for example, let me just give you some example, right? For example, right? The kid is throwing tantrum and is really, really angry and hitting someone, right? Or hitting you even. You can say, well, you are angry. No hitting, right? So I don't even say something like, "Oh, I know you are angry," but something like, right? I know a lot of the parents love to say something like this, but I'm most of the time doing something like this. Hey, you are angry. No hitting. Okay, that's usually the thing that I say. Okay, really short, but when you say it, you should be really firm about this. Okay, so for example, the kids. Let me just give you another example. The kids having a tantrum and hey, you want a toy? We are not buying it, right? So it's like, oh, I know you want a toy, yeah. A lot of the parents start negotiating at this point, right? So you want a toy, right? What about if you are like reduce your screen time and we are going to buy this toy for you, something like that, right? Yeah, don't start negotiating, right? Be very short, be very firm about this, right? You want a toy, I acknowledge you want this kind of feeling, but here's the thing: the behavior boundary, we are not buying this. Okay. So for example, the case is not calm, right? You can say something like, well, I will wait. When your body is calm, we continue. Okay? So basically it's that you want to acknowledge their feeling without, crossing the boundary, without starting a negotiation. You need to be calm and you need to be short. And the third thing I think is really important is do not reward the tantrum. Okay? So let me just give you an example. So for example, the tantrum started because you say, hey, for example, kids want the candy, right? Kids love to buy candies, right? But because you said no candy, you say no to candy, and the kids start throwing a tantrum and start crying. Do not give candy, just to stop the crying. Right? I know a lot of parents will say, well, they say it's just so annoying. I know that kids, when they start crying, is really annoying sounds. It's like a high-pitched noise. They really want you to stop, and you just want to say, well, just to give the kid candy and just to keep the kid quiet. Okay? My suggestion is do not give candy just to stop the crying. Okay? Because if the tantrum started because because they want to try whether this method works, right? If the tantrum works, the tantrum will come back. That's the kind of a method, and that's based on the basic behavior science, right? The children are not like evil. They try to throw the tantrum. They want to gain something, but they are learning, right? If the kids start screaming and the rules that you said is no longer the rules, you know what? The kids will just based on behavior science, they will learn, and the scream will become a strategy. They say, well, if I scream, the rules is no longer a rule, so that's a strategy. That's another strategy in my toolbox. I learned that, so next time we're going to scream just to change the rule. Okay, so don't do that. And I want to talk about the fourth one, is to protect the safety. That's the one thing that I wouldn't, I never negotiate about safety. Right? Especially if the kids start to have a really big tension, and the kids will start, because they got like no kind of rule inside their head, what it can do, what it cannot do, and they will just start hitting, biting, running into dangerous places, and grab anything, even dangerous objects, and then start throwing things. I want you to stop that immediately. Okay? And still, remember I said about saying things firmly and shortly. I wouldn't let you hit. Okay? As simple as that. You don't need to acknowledge this feeling right now. You just said, I wouldn't let you hit. Very short, but you have to let kids know that, well, this is just the outer boundary of the tantrum is starting to walk into a danger zone. Okay? That's the thing that is non-negotiable, right? So, as simple as that, I wouldn't let you hit. So, things that, it's about the danger and it's about the safety. So, the immediate thing for parents to do is to move the object. For example, the kid is starting to hit you or hit others, you need to block the hit. Okay? And if the kid is starting to, say, running into dangerous places, you need to move the kids to a safer and quieter place. Okay? Safety always comes first. Okay? And you shouldn't say, hey, you lock the kid into the room just for, maybe there's some thought in your mind, say, hey, I want revenge, I want aura. This is just rage, right? I want to, stop you folks from doing things with rage, with revenge, right? But you need to keep the kids and all the people around kids safe. So you're doing all this just for safety, right? And the last thing is that, the throwing the tantrum is bad enough, but I think another really, really hard part is after the tantrum. After the tantrum, we need to return to everyday life. We need to return to the ordinary boundary, okay? So what do I mean by that? What's the magic word boundary? It's not so abstract, but rather it's just about the thing that you usually ask your kids to do, the usual requirements. So for example, if the child had to clean up, right, before the tantrum, and they're throwing tantrum because they don't want to clean up, they want to watch TV or something like that, right? So if the child had to clean up before the tantrum, you know what? After the tantrum, they still need to clean up, okay? Of course, after the calming down, okay? And you might think, well, sometimes kids can't do it, right? They can do it in the normal, happy condition, but after tantrum, kids are pretty tired, right? So, maybe they need your help. Yes, you can help. You're not just, as I said earlier, you will not have with rage. You're not going to punish you, you don't want to revenge, but rather, is after the tantrum. You can help the kid at this stage, and you should. And maybe you can make the task smaller. But you know what? You can't make a task go away, okay? The task does not disappear after the tantrum, okay? And that is the kind of, returning back to the boundary, returning back to the norm. And of course, I think it's always a good idea to reconnect yourself with the kid. So that's what I call to reconnect after the storm. So you can, while the kids are cleaning up and maybe just doing the homework, right? You can say something like, "That was hard." Obviously, that was hard. You have the tantrum because you can't take it. That's what's hard. And I love you. Next time, say, "I'm angry" or "I need help," but no hitting. Okay? So you want to express your love and express the acknowledgement of kids' feeling, but still you want to provide some of the solution. So because kids are having tantrum because they don't know how to solve the problem, so you can provide some. I think the best solution is just to express the feeling, right? Like, I am angry and I need help. Okay, so that's the I think it's 5 steps, and I think that's enough, right? That's all. And also, I want a little kind of reminder for parents who really love to lecture the kids, right? Especially after the kids calm down and they will shame the kids for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? Saying that you did wrong and I was right, you was wrong, something like that. You don't shame the kids for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? You don't want to turn the family, the person's relationship into a courtroom, right? Say like Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and I was right and you were wrong, something like that. You don't want to turn the relationship into courtroom. So what I'm trying to say is that you can understand your kids' feelings without actually surrendering everyone's boundary, okay? And you can still be kind without being weak. You can still be firm. But while you are being firm, you can still be firm without being a very cruel person. So basically, it's a kind of a balance. We want to be firm, and still want to be kind. Okay? That's kind of the balance that I'm trying to share with you folks. Okay?